And welcome back to This Week. Time now to get the views of our media and political experts. Nashville attorney and Democratic activist Larry Woods and syndicated conservative talk show host Steve Gill. Welcome, gentlemen. Excuse me very much. Got cold there. Last week, we seemed to talk a lot about guns in bars and restaurants, and we're still on that subject because both the Senate and House have overridden the governor's veto, but now there's talk of maybe Metro can, through a loophole in the beer board law or through the Metro Council, make it illegal to bring a gun into a bar and restaurant that serves alcohol. Can this hold up?
Well, it's already illegal for people to come into a bar or a restaurant and drink alcohol with their guns. So a lot of this hysteria of mixing guns and alcohol is just a complete misnomer, and it's intended to deceive people into thinking that the idea is to get people liquored up with their guns. That is not true. And frankly, I think we saw the impotence of this governor when he vetoed the bill, and it actually gained votes in the House. I don't think that the local government can override state law any more than they can override other constitutional issues.
Governor Bredesen gave it his best shot. I applaud his effort. It didn't work, as Steve points out. We're stuck with it. And Metro Council, Metro government needs to be focusing on schools and jobs and the convention center and leave the beer laws alone before we get sued.
You're both lawyers, and it's always been a precedent. Federal law supersedes state law supersedes local law. So the sponsor, right. Senator Jackson, says we're state law, we would supersede even if this is true.
Yeah, it's just a charade game at this point. If the state legislature passes this in the Senate, it's going to be the law.
Lawyers see things in different ways sometimes, and Senator Jackson and I have disagreed on whether or not a restaurant that says no guns in our restaurant despite this law assumes any liability. I think if something happens where somebody comes in illegally with a gun, not a carry permit holder, and shoots somebody in that restaurant, I think you're going to see lawsuits. I think you're going to see some liability if they've posted it as a gun-free zone and then don't protect their patrons.
Make no mistake, this is a terrible law. But my side lost the gun control fight a long time ago. We need to be focused on what helps in the long term, taking care of our kids, better schools, better jobs.
General Motors this week, as expected, files for bankruptcy and idles the plant in Springhill, the GM plant there. It's going to shut down Monday for 5 weeks, then shut down in November for an indefinite period of time. And if they don't get a car to be built there, we really don't know the future of that plant, do we?
No, General Motors is like Bank of America and Citibank. They hadn't said anything in 6 months that I would trust to be accurate. And when they say, well, this is just temporary, we'll come back to Springhill and activate, I hope so. But I don't have any confidence in that.
The Springhill employees for a while may be okay because they'll get about 75% of their pay from the UAW for about a year-long period, then about half of that for 6 more months. They'll be getting unemployment. Their paychecks for at least a period of time will be okay, but where do you get a job after that? And what happens in Springhill and Columbia and that area when the plant goes away? Those jobs aren't going to be replaced very easily, and unless somebody comes in and buys that plant, maybe a Volkswagen that's getting ready to build one in Chattanooga decides to pick up one for pennies on the dollar in Middle Tennessee, maybe you see a shift of that. Maybe you see another foreign automaker deciding to come in and take the plant. That may be the best hope down there.
And if this plant is idled in November, and when it's idled indefinitely, the community is in limbo. They don't know what's going to happen. It really kind of begins to spread. Then these families can't stay forever not knowing if they're going to go back to work.
And the employees at the parts suppliers and the other subsidiary affiliated companies, they're not going to get the UAW deal for their employees. Those employees are just going to be laid off. And even the employees Steve's talking about accurately, I think, a lot of them, I'm afraid, are going to leave Tennessee because they're not going to be able to find potential jobs here. So they might get a good draw from the UAW or unemployment compensation, but I'm afraid they're going to take what little disposable income they've got and move to Michigan, move to Kentucky looking for jobs. I'm afraid it's going to be a devastating effect on Middle Tennessee economy.
And then you spread out those ripples of the impact to the McDonald's, to the local businesses that sustain themselves with the business of those workers. Again, I think it is a gut punch to that area. I hope we'll be able to avoid it by somebody coming in and taking that plant over, but it could be a gut punch to the Middle Tennessee
Senator
economy.
Alexander wants to issue stock to American taxpayers since the taxpayers own 60% of General Motors. Good, interesting idea.
I'm always for getting something free, quote unquote.
Nothing's free, Larry.
But if Lamar's going to give me stock, I want Fannie Mae, Sally Mack. I want something that's going to be worth something down the road.
Yeah, I'd take some Ford before I'd take the GM and the Chrysler stuff. I'd take some Nissan. I think there's some other choices I'd pick first before this stock.
Here in Nashville, the Metro Council this week approved the land sale, the land choice for the downtown convention center, $75 million to buy the property. The next step, I guess, is they will begin to set bids for contractors and the like. Does this still mean that this project is now a go? Is there anyone who could stop this project? Could costs go up more? We're already looking at probably $1 billion when you count public and private monies put into this project.
I think it means go. The $75 million is going to have to be borrowed, and the investors who buy those bonds are going to be told that this is for the purpose of acquiring land for a convention center, and therefore, regardless of what the true cost of the center winds up being, I think this initial first step commits us to the entire process.
As usual with projects like this, they're understating the cost, they're overstating the revenue that's going to come in. It is going to be a bad teeter-totter effect for the taxpayers in Nashville for a long time to come. There's a power station in here that I think they estimate they can move for $30,000. It's going to be closer to $3 million. That's just one shortfall that we're going to see on the back end. This is a bad deal from Nashville taxpayers.
Nationally, the president went to the Middle East this week. He seemed to get good reviews from both sides of the political aisle in his speech in saying that there needs to be a new beginning in American relationships with Americans and Muslims. How did you read the speech?
Well, I think our problem isn't that America is doing as much damage to the Muslim world as we're seeing in the Muslim world coming with terror attacks all over the world. And the president's speech, 6,000 words, never mentioned the T word, terrorism, or the J word, jihad. Maybe he needs to speak more specifically to the problems we're facing and not just kind of gloss over them.
I think it was a great speech and a great effort. And the true test is not for us in America at this point. It's whether reasonable people in the Middle East will applaud that effort by President Obama and agree to the kind of good common American goals he outlined. If they do, we need to try to embrace that. If they don't, then it's full speed ahead in Afghanistan.
Larry Woods,
and Pakistan.
Steve Gill, appreciate very much your insight. Stay with us. This week continues in a moment.